Here it is, the final part of the Bob video guide for the level Lone Wolf. Also, since there is not a strategy guide for this level anywhere, I'm going to provide some pointers. This level is unique in that it has only one Bob. This is the final Bob for the game and the only one that wields an energy sword. He's also the single toughest Bob to kill. He spawns outside of the map's playable space to the north along with several elite generals. Generally speaking, when he does show up, he'll head straight for you. If he can't find you for whatever reason, he'll usually head this way. It's unclear what determines whether or not he'll head for you. As far as I know, this Bob does not despawn. But what makes this Bob spawn? Generally speaking, once 36 Covenant have bitten the dust, this guy shows up. I was able to do that on easy, normal, and heroic without much trouble, and a video for the latter is on my YouTube channel. As you can see here, enemies will spawn outside of the level's playable space as enemies are killed. There's some sort of spawn order, starting mostly with grunts and a few elites, and eventually the game will spawn only elite generals. In any case, the 37th enemy to be spawned in is Bob. However, I found that the kill 36 enemies method is nearly impossible on Legendary. I think the best I've ever seen is something like 31 kills on Legendary. Obviously, this isn't enough to cause Bob to spawn. Well, it turns out that even if the player isn't actively killing enemies, the game will proceed through the spawn order. Enemies won't spawn in, but when the player does start killing enemies again, the game will have already moved further on in the spawn order. What does this mean? If you can lay low for some period of time, around 12 minutes, and then get some lesser number of kills, around 13, then Bob will show up. The first step to getting this to work is the setup. If you're like me, you'll want to be able to fully utilize the noob combo once you're done hiding, so get a plasma pistol early on from this grunt. Note that I fire a couple of rounds as I drop down to get his attention. The next step is to make a safe haven for yourself. Destroy the barrels around the central structure, which I call the safe house. These barrels do a ridiculous amount of damage and can quickly end an otherwise good run. There's some DMR ammo here on the ground, make sure you get it. The drop shield here is vital, make sure you grab it. You may also want to destroy the barrels over here. That area, which I call the tube, is a good fallback in case the safe house gets overrun with enemies. Now over here is where the data pad is. I read it in every run, but you're certainly not required to. It doesn't affect Bob in the slightest. With the barrels out of the way, there are two last hazards to clear out of the safe house. The first is this generator. Save your DMR ammo and use this assault rifle to destroy it. If every round hits, you can take it out in one clip. You should also take out this propane cylinder. It does a lot of damage. Top off your DMR ammo by going over here. See how my ammo total went up? I've never seen ammo on the ground, but when you walk by that door, you'll pick some up. There's a total of 45 invisible rounds there, so stop over there if you need some more ammo later. Then we build our box fort. It's a little sad, but this works much better than trying to beat the Coveys with brute force. If you accidentally knock a box over, you can crouch down and hit it up to right it. This will provide better cover. If you push all the boxes tightly together in the corner, like I am here, 95% of the time, no enemies will find you. Every once in a while, an elite will come over and start to kick the box fort apart, but as long as you're ducking, you should be good. Enemies will eventually move into the safe house, but wait until the timer says about 12 or 13 minutes before popping out. Then you've got to take down around 13 enemies to get Bob to show up. Now, confession time. I'm not particularly good at Halo. As a result, I've yet to kill this Bob on Legendary despite hundreds of attempts. Luckily, some people who do not suck at Halo have tried this, including KH Torrance. His hiding spot is a little different. This spot is not particularly reliable, but he followed the same general strategy. Here he is wiping out this Bob. Once you get the light blue and silver killing spree medal, which KH Torrance gets here, you know Bob will be showing up soon. One difference is that he juggled the sprint armor ability to the back door of the safe house, which helped him close the gap to Bob quickly. I will continue to try to wipe out this Bob on Legendary, and if I do, I'll try to provide a video showing it. I haven't given up yet. Now, I've spent a lot of time in this level, and I noticed that there is not a strategy guide for it anywhere, so I thought I'd share some of the things I learned here. Hopefully this is helpful to someone. Of course, you can't win Lone Wolf. I'm only providing these tips to help you survive as long as possible. This is what the level looks like from above. More or less a square, with the area beyond the fence a return to battlefield zone. Note that if the timer counts to 0 when you're outside of the fence, you'll actually return to your last checkpoint at the very start of the mission, which seems like a glitch. This area here is where you start, and I call it the podium. The turrets here are only useful on lesser difficulties, and while on Legendary there's not much point to being up here, you can headshot a few grunts at the mission start if you're just going for sheer kill volume. This building is the safe house, as I've mentioned, and it is the most defensible location in the level. The exposed western wall is troublesome, but 3 walls is better than none. Also, there's a health pack inside. Behind the safe house is an area I call the back porch. You can camp at the back door to get a jump on enemies, and if you go to the fenced-in end of the porch, enemies usually will go all the way around to the other end of the porch to shoot at you. This creates a bottleneck, and you can use this to force enemies to line up. Still, the barrage of fire you're likely to take here means that you'll eventually have to move on. On the other side of the dirt road behind the safe house is the tube. It's where datapad 19 is. Although there is little cover here, enemies usually won't fire at you from far away while you're under the tube. This makes it an effective fallback position. It's not quite as secure as the safe house, but if that is flooded with enemies, you can come here. There's also a health pack near the hydrogen tank. The hydrogen tanks do not explode. This is the garage located north of the safe house. With only 2 walls, it's a little rough, but since few enemies attack from the exposed east side, it's a workable fallback if needed. There are some exploding barrels inside that you'll want to destroy before using it. Also, there's a health pack outside the garage on the western corner. This area roughly below the podium I call the lot. Tyrant used this effectively when he played this level on Mythic, but I doubt most people would be able to pull off what he did. I would avoid this area. Now, let's talk about enemies. There are actually only 2 types of infantry you'll fight in this level, grunts and elites. Grunts only come in the minor and hero varieties, and always wield plasma pistols. In fact, there are no needle weapons on this level at all. At first, elites are randomly either minors, officers, or ultras. On Legendary, you'll get more of the higher ranks early on, while on lower difficulties, you'll see mostly elite minors. These guys primarily wield plasma rifles, but will occasionally carry plasma repeaters. Much later on, they'll start to carry concussion rifles. Interestingly, if you last long enough, 1 elite will spawn with a focus rifle. Only 1. However, this 1 elite can target you with exacting precision from across the map, so you'll need to stay well behind cover until he comes close enough for you to deal with. Eventually, the game will spawn only elite generals. When these guys show up, it's good news, since only a few spawn before Bob shows up, but they're merciless and wield concussion rifles and energy swords. You won't last long with these guys around. In this level, enemy aggressiveness seems to gradually increase over time. When the level starts, enemies will mostly hang back and you can pick them off. However, they will gradually become more and more aggressive, ultimately charging at you relentlessly. This happens whether or not you kill enemies, and they are always aware of your approximate location, which explains why you'll usually come out of your box fort face to face with a few grunts and an elite or 2. There are a few vehicles in this level. The Banshees that fly overhead are imposters. That is, they're there for background decoration and aren't really Banshees at all. The Wraiths are another story. At some point, randomly around 5 minutes on the level's timer, these guys will show up. Initially 4 Wraiths spawn, 1 for each cardinal direction. Now, if you take out the gunner, the game will spawn a second Wraith at that location, meaning you can have a total of 8 Wraiths raining fire on you. Tired of taking Wraith mortars? Well, you can destroy one of these guys, but the game will just bring more in. It's better just to be mindful of their fire. You can't really get rid of them, and they'll only lob around once in a while. Just keep an ear out, and when you hear a mortar approaching, take cover. Overhead, you'll notice the spirit dropships. Like all spirits, they're invincible, but you can take out the turret. However, the game cycles them through endlessly. You can see the pattern here. And when they come back, their turret will be intact. It's not worth it to take out the turret. If you hadn't noticed, these ships don't actually drop off enemies. They'll lower themselves and pause near spawn points, but enemies spawn completely independent of the tuning forks. One peculiar enemy is this phantom that flies overhead right at the beginning of the level. Not only is it the only phantom here, but it doesn't despawn. Instead, it just flies well outside of the map and actually turns to watch you. Very creepy. You can take it out, even on Legendary, but it won't net you anything other than a bunch of points, as far as I know. So what about weapons? Lone Wolf has an interestingly limited weapon set. We've already seen what the Coveys carry, but what's on the ground? The lot has an assault rifle, pistol, and grenade launcher. If you follow the dirt road behind the safe house south, you'll find an assault rifle and shotgun. The shotgun can be very helpful when you're defending the safe house, but you'll be very exposed if you actually go out here to get it. By the tube is a couple of assault rifles and a life-saving health pack. The dirt road has a sniper rifle in addition to the aforementioned drop shield. There's more sniper ammo on the catwalk by the tube as well. The back porch features the assault rifle I recommended for taking out the generator, and just outside the safe house to the south is another assault rifle. To the north of the safe house is the aforementioned DMR ammo. The western corner of the garage boasts a rocket launcher, armor lock, and health pack. However, going over here will expose you to a lot of fire. Finally, inside the safe house is another armor lock, along with a Spartan laser, the invisible DMR ammo, and a very important health pack. Well, that's about everything I know. I spent a lot of time on this level, but if you think you have a better Bob strategy, let me know. Like I said earlier, I'll still be trying to wipe out this Bob. Good luck! Don't forget to stop by the official Bob video guide thread on Halo Waypoint if you have questions or comments, or just drop me a line in the comments below. Thanks for watching the Bob video guide.